I'm sitting here bored, waiting on something, so I figured I'd do another Q&A live stream. Um, so if you want to jump in and do questions or whatever, try to do a daily live stream from now on. Maybe one, two a day. Who knows? Maybe one every couple days, depending on my schedule. Um, but um, where did we finish off yesterday, fella? You commented on the one yesterday after I finished it. You were asking what's the difference between just anxiety and depersonalization disorder or whatever. Don't quote me on this because I'm not positive what the actual book thing says, but from what I remember is they consider something depersonalization disorder the same way they consider something an anxiety disorder is after if it bothers you for or if it persists for a certain length of time, like if it lasts more than 3 weeks, it's considered a disorder. But don't let the term disorder bother you. I hate the term disorder. Makes you sound like an illness. Fear is not an illness. Fear is just fear, and it but it definitely I mean, it can definitely have real symptoms, but fear is still just fear. But in my opinion, with the depersonalization disorder stuff and people talking about how it's a disorder on its own, I still disagree with that. Yes, you can still feel it like it's a disorder on its own, like where it stands alone. But if you get rid of your anxiety, in 99% of cases, the derealization goes away with it. Um, and the best way to do that is, that's not medicine. It's not sitting and waiting for it to go away. The best way to get rid of all of it is to attack your fears. Literally, get out a notebook, write down every single fear you can possibly think of, whether it's just, in order, like from 1 to 100, whether it's 100 fears, big fears, little fears, things that really, scare the crap out of you in life in general, or whether it's just, I'm scared to walk around in the woods at night or something like that. Of course, if you live in like Montana or something where there's bears, you wouldn't want to walk around at night in the woods. But, if you live in a neighborhood, whatever, go out, walk around at night, face your fear. If you're afraid of driving in tunnels, go drive through some tunnels. If you're afraid of having panic attacks, force yourself to go out and have a few panic attacks. Attack your fears head on. Attack your fears. Don't let them attack you. Because I promise you, if you attack fear and you stare it down, it will blink first. Because fears are, they're just, it's something you've created in your mind. 99% of the things you fear will never happen in your life. It's something that you've created. A fear is, there's nothing to be afraid of until something actually happens. And that's where our downfall as humans is looking to the future in fear. But in reality, most of the things we fear never happen. And the biggest thing we all fear is our fear of dying. And everybody's gonna die. I mean, there's literally nothing. You should not be afraid. I know that sounds crazy because everything in your instincts tells you, hey, do everything you can to stay alive and whatnot and stuff like that, which is true. Yeah, you want to live, but you shouldn't be afraid of dying because that's that's one of few things in life that's absolutely guaranteed. Everyone is going to die, and why would you fear what you already are? In essence, you are gonna die at some point, then it's 100% guaranteed. Why be scared of something that's guaranteed to happen? Why not? If you're gonna be afraid of something, be afraid of something else because that's gonna happen. Yes, there are times, and I just answered your question. I don't know if you just joined the live stream or not, but at the beginning of this video, I answered your question that you left in the comments yesterday about depersonalization disorder versus anxiety. I tried to answer to the best of my ability, but the hopeless feelings, yes, I've had hopeless feelings and stuff like that when I was at my worst a lot. But once you start attacking them, you feel less hopeless. I mean, everybody has days where they feel hopeless. Like, even people who have never experienced a little bit of anxiety in their life, they've had a bad day where they felt hopeless. But you shouldn't feel hopeless in this, even if you haven't had any relief in a long time, because the only reason you haven't had relief is because you haven't attacked it the right way. You got to keep hope. I mean, it's what keeps us alive. And been hopeless, yeah, it happens. But that's one of those days where you break out a piece of paper and you write down the things that you're thankful for and that you've had, and that are the few positive, even if it's only a few positives that you have in your life. Like, oh, I have a house. I'm not sleeping in the mud. And you do what you have to do to combat hopeless feelings. And sometimes you're just gonna feel hopeless. We all have bad days, you know. But you got to do what you can to combat it and get away from it. There's a truck back there. But do what you can to combat it. You got any more questions? Um, yeah, hopelessness it's rough. You do get depressed with anxiety and all that stuff. But I'll tell you what, it really helps that depression aspect and the hopelessness aspect if you get out and just do a little bit of stuff. And that's one thing why I'm such a freak about getting exercise every morning when you wake up, because I swear it lifts that hopeless feeling. Like, if you get a solid 45 minutes to an hour of some good cardio or whatever, something that's really burning calories and giving you a burn and making you sweat. It's not a workout unless you're sweating. Um, if you really get that going first thing in the morning, I swear so much it helps with the hopeless feelings and with the overwhelmed feelings of feeling so overwhelmed. It will definitely help with that, because I can tell you for a fact, on days that I get up and I don't do anything, or if I don't exercise and I start getting all anxious and I get overwhelmed and I start getting irritated, mad, and I'm yelling at people around me or whatever, talking about how bad I feel, or oh, I'm so tired of feeling this depersonalization, whatever. Man, I can't take this anymore. I tell you, you go hop on the treadmill for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, and get a real hardcore workout. And when you get done, you will immediately notice a calmer mood. You may not feel perfect, but you will be less reactive to stress and much, much calmer. Um, that helps so much. Um, Trying to think of where to go next. I don't know if anybody. That's the only. It looks like there's only one person in here. Do you have any questions? Throw out another. Um, I'd like to get these videos where they get more views. That can happen on medicine. I'm currently not on any medicine. Um, you know, I keep a Xanax in my pocket if I ever need it. I have a prescription for that, and but I only take one like maybe every 3 months. I'll take one if I'm just really, really worked up and feeling super anxious. But I try not to, because I swear I get like a hangover from them, and I don't like benzos at all. But other than that, no. I'm exercise and I take a lot of vitamins, and but I have that emergency medicine or whatever. And if you're only on week one with that one, man, you got to give it time. You need to give it 8 to 10 weeks. Some doctors say 6 to 8, and I've heard a lot more of them say in reality it's more 8 to 12 weeks to really let it get going to its full capacity, because until then it doesn't get built up in your system enough to really matter. But yeah, sometimes right at the beginning of starting a new medicine you're going to, especially if you've been reading about it or heard somebody who had a bad experience with it or whatever, or you're expecting immediate results, the first few weeks can be hard, because it's not actually the medicine that's making you anxious. You're just anxious about whether it's working, whether it's not working, whether it's making you worse or better. Just give it time, unless you're just experiencing some crazy side effects. Give it time. Let it do its thing. It can help, and I'm not totally against medicine. I'll never say that. Medicine helps a lot of people. Yeah, yeah, I understand that. Tell me this: does it feel like almost like when you go out you feel lost, like you don't know where you are, or it feels like you're almost not there, like you feel like you're not like in your life. You feel like you're not like you feel like you're almost lost all the time, and especially it gets a lot worse when you go out. Is that how you feel? Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh my god, yeah. That's definitely that's a normal thing, bro, for sure. Like I don't know if you I see you watch my channel, but I don't know if you watch my buddy Dylan on Southern Living TV. He he'll talk about it on his too because he does these live streams. But man, we talk about that all the time. Is that feel like you get out and you feel so detached from your life and so detached from yourself and you feel so confused and so lost. You feel like you're scared to go out and go somewhere because you feel like once you get there, you're not gonna remember how to get home. Like you're just gonna be stuck out there living like a crazy homeless person or something, and you're just gonna be stuck and not remember how to get back to your house or wherever you live. Is that does that does that explain? Is that how you feel too? Because it it can definitely do that, man. It will make you feel lost. It will make you feel like you don't know where you live. Uh, and see, that's the thing. I see. I just got your comment there, and that's the thing is you feel is I don't I see what you're saying, and I can't I've done that too, where you're so out of it you feel like you're almost can't get home or whatever. You're almost like you almost forget where you are, but that's what you got to remind yourself. You almost you almost did, but did it ever really happen? No, it never was so bad that you could not find your way home. And that's what you have to remind yourself and stop worrying about it. And I know, easier said than done, but I had to do the same thing because, like, man, I've been dealing with this for like 6 or 7 years, and because I didn't know, yeah, 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 and that I've been dealing with this 6 or 7 years, and it's until like two years ago, I knew what I had, but I didn't totally understand what was going on and how it fed off of itself and everything like that. But that's something I noticed the whole time. Like I've always had this fear of, oh, what if I get lost, can't find home, or like some weird fear like that. It doesn't make any sense, or like the fear of a panic attack that's so bad it like kills you or whatever. But it's never happened. Is has as many of those. Oh, I felt like almost I forgot that has happened to me so many times. Like I can't even tell you how many times I've had that. Well, it almost did thought, but it never really happened. Almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. It it never actually is going to happen. I promise you. And I know it feels like it does, and it feels like it's going to happen, but it's definitely not going to. Because I promise you, if it was going to happen, it would have happened to me by now. I've been dealing with this for 6 or 7 years, and as much as I've dealt with it, sorry, my throat keeps getting. But the more, if it was gonna happen to someone, it would have happened to me by now. Believe me, you're fine. We have a lot of the same, symptoms and stuff, and everybody's DP and DR is different. Everybody's anxieties are different, what they worry about and stuff. But we all share similar qualities with how we think. A lot of times, not always, but most of the time, we share some some fears. But I'm a good bit better now. I wouldn't say I'm all the way better now, man. I've had ups and downs with it, to where I've been almost better and then gotten worse again and stuff like that. But like I said, that happened a lot more before I truly understood what was going on. But for now, I'm on the up and up for sure. I wouldn't say that I'm 100% yet or anything like that, but I'm working on it every day, and I have zero doubt in my mind that I will be at some point, 100%. And and but I definitely am on the up and up, man. That's the key to all this, man. Is you gotta stop. You gotta stop. Once you educate yourself, it becomes so much easier to deal with, like astronomically better. But that's the biggest issue that I talk about in a lot of my videos is when you don't know what something is or you don't understand something, it is so much scarier. And there was some kind of famous philosopher or something, somebody who said, "There's nothing to fear, just there's not a single thing in the world to fear, just more things we need to figure out how to understand." Um, but it's that's definitely true. Like the more you understand something, the more you get what's going on, the less scary it really is. Because I say in one of my videos, if you're walking through the woods at night and you hear something beside you, making noise, your mind's instantly gonna go to, I'm about to get murdered by like a serial killer, I'm about to get eaten by a mountain lion, or I'm gonna get attacked by some sort of giant animal with ferocious teeth. And all of a sudden you flip a flashlight over there and it's just a little tiny field mouse. But your mind instantly goes to the scariest things possible because that's what your instincts make you do. And because instead of thinking it through, you freak out. And instead of investigating first, you freak out before. You got to understand what was there. And once you see what's there, all of a sudden you're not scared anymore. You're like, it's a fucking mouse. But before then, when you don't understand, I gotta read. Hold on just a second. Um, yeah, man, and I tell you what, bro, the something I've noticed, um, something I've noticed. You talk about laying there feeling so foreign and stuff like that. When you have DP, this is my opinion. This right here, I have not read anything like this, and this is just something I've come up with on my own. But I think when you have DP, your brain is so exhausted, and especially when you lay down or you're in the dark, because your body has certain signals that it sends to itself to start shutting parts down, to start recouping or resting to regain its energy, and your brain's the same way. When your mind is so worn out, like it is from DP and DR and anxiety and all that, it's so worn out that as soon as you lay down, and especially if you're in the dark, your mind, you start to get a lot more anxious and your mind starts to go a lot more haywire because it starts to detach. It starts to turn parts of it off because it's assuming you're about to go to sleep. And like for me, when my eye, like when I was at my worst, when I would close my eyes, it would almost instantly be like I was dreaming, even if I was fully awake, because my mind's so tired that it's trying to do anything it can to use those few seconds to recoup, and it starts shutting down parts even when you're consciously still awake. It starts to try to make you go to sleep because it's trying to let your brain recoup. Even if your body's full of energy, your brain is so worn out from anxiety with the DP and DR that when you lay down to go to sleep or you're in the dark or whatever, it makes you feel more foreign. And the more you think about it, the more aware of it you become, the worse it gets because you're self-focusing. But the second you get up and you start looking around, like for me, if I get stuck in my head sometimes, I start worrying too much, stuff like that. You know, if I'm in my own head, I'm looking around, staring off in space, I kind of shake out of it, stand up, walk around, reattach to your surroundings. You know, jump up and down a few times, do a few jumping jacks, hit a few push-ups, look at stuff around you. You know, feel something, smell something, see something, and kind of ground yourself again, and it kind of brings you back out of it. But I promise you, there is no better feeling. This is gonna sound super weird, but there is no better feeling, and no more clarity feel, no more clear thinking than when a panic attack gets over. I promise you, if you go outside like you're talking about, you've been scared to go out, you walk around. You know, I'm not saying you have to go an hour away from your house and have a panic attack. Walk down the street and find some way to force yourself to have a panic attack just a few minutes down the street from your house, where you could call somebody if you need help to make you feel better, or where you can run back home if you have to. But force yourself to have a panic attack after you have a massive freak out, and then come out of the other side and realize and re-level out and realize that you're okay. You will feel that your thinking is clear. It's like the DP lifts for a moment, and you will have, your thoughts will be so clear, and it's almost like you can feel yourself for a few minutes after that panic attack is over. Um, I know that sounds crazy. I know it sounds counterproductive, but the more times you can force yourself to have panic attacks and force yourself into those situations, yeah, the DPDR, just qualify them as the same. They really are the same. They feed off of each other. They're from the same thing. They're not two separate things. But everybody tries to argue that, but in essence, they go together. And in essence, they're both just symptoms of a larger cause, anxiety. They're not their own thing by themselves. They feed from the anxiety. But that's how you have to do it, man. You have to get that exposure. There's nothing in this world, any no psychologist or psychiatrist will argue that whatsoever, that there's no better way to treat anxiety or any sort of anxiety disorder or whatever, whether it's generalized anxiety or OCD or whatever those fears are. There's nothing in this world that treats it better than exposure therapy. There's nothing that's going to get it done faster, because you literally, when you act within your fear response, your anxiety response, whatever actions you take during it start solidifying in your brain. When you see something scary, if you go towards it instead of in something that scares you, and you go towards it and you sit through it and you don't run away, it literally rewrites the code inside your amygdala to say, oh, well, next time I won't fire when this happens, because I realize now that this is not a scary situation. And sometimes it takes multiple times doing it. You have to expose yourself to it over and over. But that's the key to exposure therapy, is to continue to expose yourself to the things that scare you over and over again, because it literally, on a physical level, rewrites your amygdala. Yeah, for sure. And man, start if you have a friend that can go with you or do something cool, that'll help even more to start with. But eventually, you got to face it on your own, because that's just, that's how it's got to be. Because you're always going, when you have somebody with you, they're always going to be your crutch. You have to relearn that you can take care of yourself and that you got yourself. Like once you have, there's a confidence that comes with handling it on your own. Once you realize that you can knock it out on your own, and that you don't need somebody else to help you, everything else starts falling into place. But you have to get the exposure. I'm not saying you got to do it all in one day, but you got to get it. I mean, that's literally, it's painful. You may cry. See, that's the thing though, is, man, you got to, once, you're not going to get lost. Go out one time, and you may have a massive freak out panic attack and have to call somebody to come get you, or if you get your own self home. But you're going to realize once you get back, it felt so much like I almost didn't remember where I was. But it's still going to be an almost. It's not going to actually happen. You got to get that exposure. You don't have to do it all at once, but you got to get it. Like it's not going to be fun. Nothing about it is going to be exciting. It is going to be the worst fucking experiences of your life, but the best things are on the other side of your greatest fears. You may cry, you may curl up in a fucking ball and scream, you may shake or throw up or sweat or make a total fucking fool of yourself, but you gotta get it, because I promise you, relief is on the other side. And it may not feel like it at first. At first, it'll get worse before it gets better. But if you continue through it, I guarantee you, you will improve. Well, that's the thing, man. That gives you even more motivation right there, bro. Getting better for your daughter. That's the best thing ever. Like, if you have a motivator right there, that in the back of your mind, that should, when you start walking and going outside or whatever, that every time you go outside and every time you go to do exposure and you go to turn around like, nah, I just don't feel it today. Nah, I just don't feel it today. Nah, maybe tomorrow will be better. That'll give you a reason to not turn around and go home, to go through it and to get through it for that day, what you need to do. And gives you something in the back of your head, like, I'm doing this for so and so. That way it's not even on you anymore. It's not even for you, it's for somebody else. A lot, like, I can do many things in this world a lot better, and I can push a lot further and harder if it's for people I love than I can for myself. I don't know why, but it is. That's a great motivator that you've got there. That's that you have free motivation there. But I don't have any kids. I'm not sure what you're asking. Rewrite that one and let me know. My phone battery's about to die. I've been on here for like 30 minutes. I need to go find my battery. Hold on, as soon as I get my phone plugged up, I'm gonna set this live stream down for just a second. When I get it plugged up to my charger, I'll pick it back up. So give me just a second.
What?
I'm doing a live stream on YouTube. All right, let's see what you had to say. Hold on, I can't see my daggone phone now. The sun's got me. Oh, let me read what you said. Almost thought I shouldn't have. Yeah, that's a good one there. Not letting it dictate your life. By go ahead and doing it, and plus, man, it gives you a reason. It gives you a good reason to just put a whooping on your anxiety and DP, man. That's a good motivator for sure. What was I saying? I can't even remember now, but yeah, that's awesome. I see 2 more people in here. If y'all got questions, chime in. with whatever you got. Um, but yeah, as having a daughter, man, you get free motivation there for a reason to attack your fears and get over things, so you can be the best parent that you can be and all that kind of stuff. But it it should definitely be you should live your life. Do not let this dictate it at all. Because when you start letting something dictate your life, you give it more and more control, and you start giving up more and more freedom. Because people give up a lot of things because of fear, and your ability to live your life as your own should not be one of them. And we all do it from time to time with certain things, and especially with anxiety and panic disorder and depersonalization, derealization, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I understand canceling things because of it. I have too, and made up excuses. But when you start putting your foot in the ground and start not canceling things, no matter how you feel, that's what you got to do to start giving yourself the exposure and stuff. Like, when you're like, oh, I'm not feeling it today or whatever. I don't feel like doing it. I'm having a bad day. That's just reinforcing it when you don't go anyways. When you go anyways, no matter how you're feeling, that's when you get the most out of your exposure therapy and all that kind of stuff, is when you do it anyways, because that just reaffirms in your mind that you're in control and you're not letting something bother you enough to get you off your game. Trying to think of anything else I should talk about before I cut this one. Maybe types of exposure, um, or not types of exposure, just ways you can start doing exposure, because that's a lot of people's biggest issue is they're afraid to take that first step into exposure therapy. They're afraid to get started, like they don't know where to start. They're like, they don't want to go too far, but they don't want to do nothing, and they're afraid to take that first step, man. And you kind of got to throw yourself into it. The first one can be super scary, but the more you do it, the better it gets. And start little, but 100% force yourself to not backslide on it. What do you think? People have depersonalization for so long. Lack of education. Like I was saying before, most people, when they have it for so long, it's because they're afraid to do exposure, so they end up with it for a long time because it is so scary. It's hard to do on your own. They're afraid to do exposure. They don't understand why they're feeling the way they are. They haven't educated themselves on it, or they just simply don't know. They haven't figured out what it is yet, and they're still thinking they just have some kind of crazy thing wrong with them, when all it really is anxiety. That's why people have it for so long, in my opinion. But yeah, with your exposure, you gotta start doing it. You can start small. I prefer to start medium and then go big, because to me, I can do small over and over and over again, and it doesn't push me unless I'm sitting there shaking a little bit and into a situation that's not comfortable. You're not getting exposure when you're comfortable, if that makes sense. If it's not bothering you to be where you are, then that's not exposure. That's in your comfort zone. You have to be uncomfortable for it to be considered an exposure therapy. Um, and you can start little by walking around the block, driving around the block, driving down the road, going to the store, going into the store, walking around, buying something, coming back, getting in the vehicle, driving home, or driving around and then driving home. Uh, hanging out with friends, going places, taking trips, doing small things just as simple as going to the store and walking around, or going to the park and running laps or whatever. But you have to start. Dude, I know, and like I said in the one yesterday, man, um, when if you go too far, the panic gets so real. But that's when you're getting your most out of it. That's when you're getting your exposure. Yes, I know it's terrifying. I know the DP, when you leave your house, gets so much worse because you're around less things that ground you and make you feel like you're in your life. You're around alien things, so nothing feels real. And then also, when you get further out, like I said, your brain's protecting you from what it deems could hurt you or that you could feel pain. So it numbs you even more when you get out of your comfort zone. So the DP hits 10 times harder. But when it hits 10 times harder like that, that's got to be an indicator in your mind. Yeah, I understand that. It's got to be an indicator in your mind that okay, I'm in a place now where I'm getting something out of this and I need to push just a little further. I need to push just a little further. And that's the thing is you just got to keep pushing. You know, I'm not telling you got to do it all in one day. That's what I keep trying to reiterate. And you know, write down fears. Let's say you're afraid of driving to this from this. Let's say you're just afraid of driving this certain distance from your home, whether it's a mile or 5 miles or 20 minutes or 30 minutes away from your house. And man, that's what you got to start doing. And like literally, let's say that's your first fear on your list. Drive there day one and you know have a freak out whatever, but you need to keep driving there every day, twice a day, freaking out and getting back home or whatever, and you need to do that every day until you're not scared of it anymore. And then when you get done with that fear, go on to the next one. Like a lot of people with panic disorder are scared of movie theaters because they've had a panic attack in a movie theater. I've had one in a movie theater too. But then you got to start going to the movie. Like you need to go to the movie theater and sit there. And when you start to panic, sit there and feel it. Oh, it's so scary. I feel like I'm going to pass out, whatever. You know what happens when you pass out? You wake back up and you're alive. But you have to sit there and expose yourself to your fears. And your next fear's got to be the same way, just over and over and over again. The more those fears you squash, I promise, the more you're going to start feeling like yourself again, because your mind's going to ease up, your DP's going to ease up and be like, no, there's once you get through your fears, there's nothing left to fear, and there's nothing pain you're worried about anymore, and your DP's going to lift. I promise you, it gets better and better. The more you expose yourself, the as scary as it is, the more panic attacks you have, the better you're going to feel, and the more your DP is going to lift. I feel so much better after a panic attack. Sounds totally crazy, I know, and it's only just for a few minutes. But the clarity you get, the clarity of thought, and the actual reattachment you get with yourself for the few moments that you get it after a panic attack is so much better. Other fears. You're worried that you'll panic while you have your daughter with you? What if you do? What are you going to do? It's not, you know, people have panic attacks around, parents have panic attacks when they have kids all the time, but that's also a reason for you to keep it together while having a panic attack and push through it instead of curling up in a ball and having somebody else come help you. That's more reason to push through it yourself. And dude, I promise you, people don't give themselves enough credit for how their ability to rise to the occasion. People are like, oh, you know, when it does happen, I'm gonna freak out, I'm gonna curl up, I'm gonna freeze, I'm not gonna know what to do, and not gonna do this, and they fear all these things that is gonna happen the next time they panic or whatever. But then it really rolls around, and you actually force yourself into it, and none of that ever happens. You will rise to the occasion. It will happen. I'd get me a drink, sorry. But people do not give themselves enough credit for their ability to rise to the occasion. I promise you, humans, we are very strong creatures, and we are very, what's the word, resilient creatures. You will rise to the occasion, and I mean, and you'll knock it out of the park. People don't give themselves enough credit, but when it comes down to it, and the thing is, man, if you face the things in your life that you're the most scared of, like it literally, because in our mind, the things we face are life and death. Even though it doesn't make, it's not actually that way. Panic's not going to kill you. In our mind, that it feels like dying, so we relate it to death. But man, if you will face death and look it in the eyes and take its mask off per se, there's nothing that you will face in your life again that will be as scary and that will bother you as much than facing your biggest fears like panic. Because once you face that, it's the same thing as you facing death, and in your mind, and it will no longer bother you anymore. Like you can absolutely whoop it, and nothing else in the world will scare you as much. Hold on just a second. I got a text message. Can't let fear run you. You got to face them, because once you do face them, there's a there was like some kind of famous, I don't know if he was like a samurai or something or whatever. I heard it in a motivational video. This guy was talking about how uh, when the odds are stacked against people and stuff like that, stacked against warriors, um, and you put them in a place where there's no escape, they will prefer death to flight or death to running, because once you face death, there's nothing in the world that you're afraid to face after that. You can literally live your fullest life once you've faced your biggest fears, because there's nothing anymore that's there to stop you from living the exact way you want to. That's how you got to think about it too, man. Is, man, we only get a limited amount of time to be here. Live exactly how you want to, because we're gonna die either way. That's scary to talk about, I know, and death is what scares us, but we're all gonna die. Like, we're not, like, it's guaranteed. You will die. There is no way around it. You're not gonna get away from it. You can't save yourself by hiding in your house. It's coming for you either way, no matter what. So you might as well get out and live and accept that your acceptance is so key of your fears and stuff. Accept that you're afraid. Accept that you don't want to die, or accept that you're gonna die anyways. So why not live your entire life like you want to until you die? Because you're going to anyways. You're guaranteed in this world. You're 100%. You will pay taxes. You will die. Like, you will be born, you will pay taxes, and you will die. That's your 3 guarantees. And I think there was one more, but I can't remember what it was. You live, you die, you pay taxes. Well, that's up to you, man. You're talking about being 50 years old and staying. I understand. I had the same fears. Still have the same fears sometimes. They pop into my head. But, man, it's all up to you. Like, you can either live, your life, and who knows, you may live to be 100 and lived a full, awesome life. Or you could live life fast and crazy and as much as you want to, and you could live to be 100, or you could live to be only 50 and die. But you have lived a full life, and it would have been the greatest thing you could imagine. Or you can stay hidden in your house full of stress and being afraid of death and what's knocking on your door, and you could die, and you could live to be 120 and have no life to have lived all those years, or you could still only live to be 50 and die. I mean, it's really up to you. Like, there's nobody else that's in control of this but you. And you gotta accept that, because it's just part of the game. We all die, we all pay taxes, and you're gonna die whether you stay in your house and never expose yourself to anything and stay in your safe spot, or whether you're out fighting fucking lions and tigers all day, and you're gonna die either. It's not a question of how, or a question of if, it's a question of when. So no matter what, you're gonna die. Might as well kick ass and do whatever you want to with it, because there's no point in living a life that's a lie. You're gonna die either way, so why not spend your time doing exactly what you want and having as much fun as possible? Um, there's no reason not to. You got any other questions before I cut it? I've almost an hour. This is a lot. This is definitely this twice as long as my other ones. Um, got any more questions before I go? Either person in here. I'm gonna give you. I'm gonna go quiet for a few minutes and give you a minute to type them up if you want to ask anything else, and then I'll answer it. And then I'm gonna get off here. I got a few things I gotta do. You got it. I'm gonna be doing a live stream. I'm gonna try to do one every day, but maybe two a day, or maybe every few days. It just depends on my schedule and how and if I'm what's going on. I'll probably be streaming tomorrow. Um, look for me around the same time, sometime between around lunchtime, give or take an hour, and lunchtime my time, 12. By that I mean noon Central Standard Time. Um, and yeah, but you know, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Trying to get them up and get more viewers on it, and get more questions going. And if I can rattle off, I get to where I don't have enough content, and then if I don't have enough questions to answer, I'm gonna cut the video short because uh, I only like doing it if I'm getting a bunch of questions. So y'all have a good one. Take it easy. Face your fears. I'm out.